you know, how, well, they would need 15 or 20 minutes to get there, 15 or 20 minutes to get that back to continue their curriculum. So I'm wondering if there's like additional time at White Hill, additional library time that would need to be provided to, you know, to make up for the time that these students would be missing by hauling to Hidden Valley and hauling back.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
I'll speak. Hi, I'm Kelly Adrington. I have been to many schools in this district. I try not to get too involved in these meetings. But I happen to be a parent of a special needs kid. And I just put some notes on my phone so that I could stay sorted. These children have the right to be integrated with the, quote, regular children. If they are at another school location, they cannot be part of their school community. Special education has often been shifted off to the least possibly functional place. This is a historical thing with special ed. Special education teachers have fought for years to have their students at the same school. And if these students are at another school, they can't be part of the rest of their RVSD community. We have a limited amount of special ed staff. It is impossible to have the flexibility of a special ed teacher to move in and out of regular classrooms to assist kids if they are expected to be at another location. When kids are pulled from classrooms, it's already traumatic enough for them. They're special needs, they know they're different, and to transport them to a different location is only further isolating them. If they're going to be transported to another location, it will only take up more of the child's day outside of learning. But many of these children already have transition challenges. In addition to emotional and physical challenges, moving children about does not help with their success in learning. Uprooting them from their school to another campus will not only fuel issues with transition, but for many children who already know they are different, it will emphasize the fact that they are outside the norm and need special services. These children are already struggling to learn and feel accepted. The Hidden Valley location is unreasonable and in no way in the best interest of the children who qualify as special needs students at RVC. I would also like to add that even from downtown Fairfax, it takes longer than 20 minutes to get to Hidden Valley on any given moment. To come from White Hill would take longer. Bringing kids in, bringing them out, it's just entirely unreasonable and really shocking to me as a parent. And I love my child and he's a gift. He's special needs. And for those of us who have gifted children who are successful and just go to school and succeed, that's a wonderful thing. But please try and understand that not everybody comes out that way. Some kids need extra help and they know it already. And to send them off somewhere else is traumatizing. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Here's your visual aid. This is the little guy. He is my youngest of three. I have two special needs. And
I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself?
I am Tiola Young Cartain. This is Mason Cartain. We have tried many, many different schools all over this county, as far over as Nevada, and it has not been well. I can tell you that both of my boys have been beat up for getting on the short bus, physically, by other kids. I get packs of other kids. Both of my boys have been called stupid, retarded, all these other things for being segregated. You do make them into a different person when you segregate them. They're no longer the happy kid that gets along with everyone that's part of that whole system. When Mason first came to Ross Valley Charter School, he was a destroyed child. He thought he was a bad kid, and he used to call himself a bad kid. And Ross Valley Charter has a zero shaming policy. There's no such thing as a bad kid in that environment, and I haven't seen that before. So, and I've been through it. I mean, this isn't the first kid I've had to go through the system with. And I've seen every type of system available, and I can tell you that segregating special needs children is extremely damaging to them. Especially, I haven't known very many special needs kids that are great with transitions to begin with. Most of them are just struggling to be there. And when you go and segregate them, you're creating someone who's going to say, I'm a bad person. So Mason went from saying, I'm a bad kid, everyone calls me stupid and retarded, I get beat up, to now he wants to fight for people. He says, I want to protect people, Mama. I want to protect people and make them laugh. So that's his big goals in life. And that all came out of our experience at Ross Valley Charter because he's there. He's part of the whole student body there. He will mimic whatever behavior that he sees. That was the other reason why being in certain classrooms were really tough. If there's a kid throwing furniture, he thinks that's what you do. When his sister cooks, he cooks. When his brother plays a sport, he plays it. So you're not just segregating them and making them feel awful about themselves, taking away from their actual day where they're supposed to be learning, emphasizing the fact that they don't fit in. But aside from that, you're putting them out of regular, which is what we're trying to do, is keep them sort of in this mainstream environment where they can model what they feel, what model the behavior that really works, which is we all take care of each other, and that's what Ross Valley Charter is all about. I would highly recommend that you do not pull these kids out and put them back on the short bus where they're going to get beat up and picked on again. Maybe not by the Ross Valley Charter kids, but every kid sees that bus coming in, and every kid knows what that means, and it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's extremely damaging. Years of therapy will be rolled back if this happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
Sharon Sager. I know that this proposal was brought before you, that it's not something that you developed, and so you're considering it as an option. But I'm here this evening to ask you to consider the children who will be affected as you determine how to proceed. As a reminder, the space that we're talking about that the judge has given is for special education. It was not specified as a special day class. And I know because of your involvement in education, you know the difference between the two things. So special education is in the least restricted environment where students oftentimes will flow in and out of different environments. They don't necessarily stay in a class for the majority of the day. And so I just want to clarify that for people who maybe don't know the difference, that there are two very specific things, a special day class and special education services. Special education services might be all types of different things. They might have speech therapy, occupational therapy, audiology services, psychological services, physical therapy, so on, that happens during the day depending on the student's IEP. That does not mean that they have to go somewhere for a long period of time during the course of their day. And sometimes it might happen with an individual student, sometimes it might happen in groups of students depending on what their IEP plan says for them. So to expect students to be flowing in and out of a classroom that's not within their school campus is a much different thing than someone who spends the dedicated part of their day. So as you can imagine, putting these services on a completely different campus requires the student to leave that least restrictive environment, spend a good part of their day traveling, and it's not the same thing. Even as this district was going through some of its toughest growth challenges and serving kids in the multi-purpose rooms and things, they never shipped kids away to a different school for their special education services. They may have been in a special day class and that was their dedicated school, but this is treating students very differently than all other students in the district by asking this to take place. And I just ask of you, as educators and carers of children in this community, that you make the right decision.
Thank you, Sharon. Who would like to speak next? Please.
Hi, my name is Tori Chappelle, and I've been teaching and supporting kids in this district for 30 years. And I've worked with kids on all the campuses and actually continue to. I tutor privately after school hours. I'm still sub in all the schools. I work at the Charter Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as one of the two teachers who are the special ed support staff. And so I have just been trying to think logistically. I definitely do not think it would be the best thing for the children or the two of us, because we share materials and we use the same materials. And so I brought my visual aid. This is a small portion of what I would, if I were to be moving back and forth because I wouldn't be able to, we couldn't have one of us stay there because of the shared material and because of the way we work with the small groups and individuals. And the instructional loss, the loss of instructional time would be, it's probably closer to like an hour per trip, if in a personal car, and I would only be able to take 3 kids because I only have 3. I have 3, so I can only take 3. So it'd be, I would need to get the booster seats because over half of the kids, we support about 45 kids, not just with IEPs, because we want to meet kids who have struggles, who maybe preemptively we want to help them not have to have an IEP. And we mix. And so I'm just trying to picture, I have to park about 1/8 of a mile down the road in the morning. That's usually where I can find a spot. And so I would take at the minimum this, and then the booster seats and 3 kids, and down to the car and load it up and then drive. It probably would take me 15 to 20 or more minutes to get to Hidden Valley, and then we unload and then get in, and then I would only really be able to work with them for like 20 minutes there in order to get them back so they can have recess with their class. And then, by then it's, I would be really interested to hear the thoughts that you would put into the logistics of it, because I haven't really been able to have it work in my mind. And I urge you to think about, I believe most of you here have kids, and if your child was receiving support services at the school that they attended, at how you would feel about them missing that much instructional time and being driven, whether it's in a bus or a private car, back and forth through town in the middle of the school day, and adding additional transition times. And so I would also be, just from a parent point of view, because I haven't been able to see the logic or reasonableness around this suggestion with all the factors that come into play. So please consider those and reconsider.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Yes.
Hi, my name is Anna Barker, and I am the parent of a 7th grader at White Hill. And I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I just wanted to say thank you for taking White Hill off of the table as a location. My daughter is in 7th grade. Last year in 6th grade, she started the year off having math and science in one of the flex spaces. And I'm sure that, everybody can imagine that math and science in the flex space isn't ideal. That was changed relatively quickly when she was moved into one of the portable classrooms, which is a much better situation for her and the other students in the class. And this year she has Spanish in the flex space. And we went to back to school night last week, and I spoke with her Spanish teacher, who's a lovely gentleman, Mr. Paul. And he teaches using a method called TPR, which is total physical response, I believe, which I did a little bit of reading about, and it's really interesting. The kids get to make a lot of noises, and they get to get up, and they get to move around. It's a very active class. And I said, how's that working in this space? And he said, well, it's not ideal, but we're making it work. So here we are again, crunched into White Hill, and my daughter has yet another class in a flex space, and it's Spanish. It's not math or science, but yet, again, it's not the ideal situation that we were hoping for when she was in elementary school, and we were looking forward to sending her off to White Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Yes.
Just some clarification. I was wondering where the current special ed students from RVC...
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry, Brian Hogan. Where are, if we know, where the current students at RVC who are pulled out from their regular classes are being assisted or accommodated or educated, helped? I also guess I wanted to throw out this possibility I'm wondering if RVC, because I remember at one point they were willing to split classes onto 2 separate campuses, I wonder if they might consider the offer of a classroom for one of their other classes in exchange for having special ed class in one of the classes they're now using as a homeroom at Whitehill. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Yeah.
Hi, Chris Lyons. I want to start with gratitude. I'm very appreciative that you've given us part of the building at Whitehill so we could open our school. A lot of charter schools do start with a Part 39 situation as they're getting established and eventually move off and have their own campus. So I know it wasn't given willingly and it has certainly been controversial. When I first heard you were proposing to put us at Whitehill, I thought it was sort of strange, but then I realized it made sense. It kept RVC all together in one building, separate from the middle schoolers. There's a nearby blacktop that could be made separate from the rest of the middle school. And we have what we need there. We have office space, classrooms, bathrooms, just not quite enough space. The offer of one room or the idea of one room at Hidden Valley just doesn't make sense. It's impractical. It's not, as Wesley said, sensible. It's similar to the preliminary offer of 6 classrooms that you originally offered or suggested in the spring, and which is what prompted RVC's lawsuit. We didn't want to have to litigate, but felt there was no option because we just couldn't run our entire school with 6 classrooms. You increased your final offer to 8 classrooms, which was much more reasonable. And now the judge is saying that you need to give us another room. And I empathize. I know you don't want to give any more. I know this is a hard thing for you. But a room on another campus is just useless to us. We don't have a special day class. We have students who receive special ed services. Some of our special ed kids are served within the regular general ed class. We have some that are pushed in by the special ed teachers. And some are pulled out, depending on their needs. Our students need to have access to the facilities, whether it's special ed, art, music, before, after care. They need to be there on campus with the rest of our students. We're really not interested in litigation. We're not interested in a battle. We really just want to educate kids. We're a minority in this community, we know that, but we continue to fight for the right for all kids to have a free public option, because we believe that not only people who can afford private school should have that choice. I know it's possible to sit down and figure out a solution that can work for the district and for RVC. I know it's possible for both organizations to compromise as needed to create a workable solution. There are many intelligent people in this room who could work together to figure it out. I respectfully ask you to table this idea for the Hidden Valley classroom. Give an hour of your time to sit down with RVC leaders and see if we can figure out another solution. I really think it's possible.
Thank you, Chris. Yes. Great.
I should have coordinated with Chris Lyons since he just stole my words. But really, I'll just get to the short of it because I know you're short on time. Just logistically, I don't see how this can work. I don't like to use the word impossible. I'll say it's not possible for this to work, to have a room on another campus to serve our special education students. There'd be issues with FAPE and least restrictive environment that would come up. That'd be difficult to contend with when you have transportation involved. For me, it makes the most sense, of course, for it to be on the same campus. And I do recognize that that is a challenge for all of you. And I do appreciate that the board and the board staff have put time into trying to figure out what all the different options are, and that you're put into place to make this decision. And I'm just recalling the January 2017 board meeting when Whitehill was presented, that it was presented as an option that it would fit all of RVC over time as declining enrollment occurred at Whitehill as it has bore out as the presentation was true. I think at that time it was saying 10 RVC classrooms would fit potentially at Whitehill. in addition to the current program with 1,100 capacity at Whitehill. And this would be under that capacity. But I do know it's difficult when you're talking about classes and reconfiguring things. So I would like for you to reconsider on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Yes.
I'm Michelle Garsosa. I don't want to be in the IJ, thank you. My son has an IEP, and my other son is at Whitehill. He's a 7th grader at Whitehill. He had a flex space at Whitehill. At the beginning of 6th grade, he was fine with it. He didn't care. It didn't really affect him. He was moved around. He learned. He's successful. My other ones at RVC, it actually helps. A couple times this year, they've been able to walk home together, which is great because you don't want a 4th grader walking down Sir Francis Drake. And they just hang out in the courtyard and meet each other. And my youngest does have an IEP, and he is in Miss Chris's for math. And we talked at the beginning of the school year at back to school night about how to best meet his needs. And one of the solutions that Miss Chris was thinking was to have the have the special ed teacher, Miss Sarah, come in to the classroom and help him with the reading portion of the math. So that's part of it. He also has speech services, so I guess that he could go off campus, but I think it would be a rough transition. I don't know. I mean, he'd love not being in class for probably 10 or 15 minutes. What kid wouldn't? So the question is how would you to reconcile with kids who are getting push-in help? And I guess, again, the transportation, like, I'm sure you're a great driver, but I don't know that you want to be taking, like, 3 random kids in your car every day. So how would you reconcile the transportation? And what special ed would be off campus? And again, I think how Luke said, how does that reconcile with least restrictive classroom and all kinds of, all the other more federal policies regarding special education? So I guess that's kind of my questions. I wasn't planning to speak. I didn't raise my hand, but I think there's less than 20 people who are going to speak tonight, so I'll let me take someone's spot.
Thank you. Yeah?
My name is Ava Murray, and I am 10 years old. I am in 6th grade at RVC, and it doesn't seem fair to me that district students don't have to go 4 miles away, but RVC students would have to. And that's not fair.
Thank you very much. That was very brave. Who would like to speak next?
Okay, I'll do it.
Hey! Hi, Sam!
Hi, thanks for being here tonight. Let's see, my thought wasn't fully formed. However, I'm here. I'm actually feeling pretty encouraged tonight because I'm here as a concerned parent of the Ross Valley. And I think all of us probably are concerned parents of the Ross Valley. And I feel like we're really close. I don't know, to kind of, well, no. There's just so much, I'm going to do my best. Never mind, sorry. What we said. A year and a half ago, Mr. Bagley came up with a creative solution to a challenging situation. And that was, I think his proposal at the time was moving 6th graders, back to the elementary schools and reshuffling the whole district. But, it was a really creative solution, and I felt there was a lot of effort that went into it. And there's been so much, of course, trouble and difficulty and contention since then. And what we have now is we have 2 less than ideal situations. I can speak, I think, for all of the charter school. We don't want to disrupt the students at Whitehill. It's not optimal, but at the same time, we're grateful for what we have. We are making do with less than optimal situations. And we lost our art teacher last year because she didn't want to go to classroom, teach art in a cart, which had to happen. It's not great to have the 6th graders or anyone in a flex space. But in a way, what we're doing isn't your problem, right? But what I'm asking is for, I guess I would request just to take some time and see if there isn't another creative solution we can come up with here that's not going to displace any more students in Whitehill from their campus, from their classrooms. and something that would kind of create, I think, an adequate special education situation for the charter students. You know, we had 5 solutions. I'm wondering if there's a 6th. And I just feel, again, I feel like we could be really close, and I think personally, I'm tired of this contention. It's not your fault, it's not the charter's fault, it's just us. And thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
I have a 6th grader at White Hill and a 4th grader at RVC.
Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Rebecca. I raised my hand. I do not like public speaking, so I'm doing this because I have to.
You can do it.
Yeah. My 6th grader at RVC, we transferred from another charter, okay, here, folks. So that was her only year at RVC, and she was really struggling academically. She got both push-in and pull-out services at RVC, and now she's a happy 6th grader at White Hill. And I really feel certain that she wouldn't be a happy 6th grader at White Hill if she hadn't received push-in and pull-out services and been part of her entire school day. If she had been bussed over to here and bussed back, she would have missed so much instruction. I want to point out she would be costing White Hill and the school district at large a lot more money right now for services if she had been one of those kids that had been shuffled around instead of getting the good solid education that she received during her year at RVC. So for kids that are already behind, to take them out of their class and cause them to fall further behind, it's going to cost more fiscally. My 4th grader at RVC is doing well and doesn't need special services, luckily, but she's receiving an education that's bringing her up to where she will be also a happy 6th grader at White Hill. I also want to say that my 6th grader bounces around to this space and that space. She's doing great. Sometimes she's in portables, sometimes she's in a shared class. She's doing great. Life at White Hill is really good for those students as far as I can tell. And I'd like to see what creative solution can there be, maybe another portable that can be put up so that there can be a classroom on the RVC White Hill campus that doesn't require anyone to be driven around town to receive push-in or pull-out services.
Awesome, thank you. Who's next?
Yes.
My name is Arthur Draws, and I just have a question for the board to clarify for us. So if it does come to the choice, what are the choice we have? And what's the budget for it? Do we have a budget for it? Because it's going to take away from other kids. So that's my question.
Anyone else?
So
Yes.
we have a comment. So, Sophia, did you want to say something? So she's a little shy to talk right now in the room full of people, but we came here as a family because we feel that it's awesome, by the way. My name's Michelle, and it's great hearing everybody and seeing everybody here tonight. But we also came here because we value our community. Both, I think you refer to our community as Ross Valley, which I think is perfect, to not continue the division between Ross Valley School District and Ross Valley Charter. I think we're all in this together, and one way or another, you don't get out of this without paying. You know, I think, who was it that was commenting that your child was prepared for middle school based on her needs getting met. And that's why our family's doing what our family is doing, is because our children need we believe we deserve a public education and have their needs met like anyone else's children at any other school district and in any other state in the United States. So I don't know if I'm saying what you'd like to say, but anyway, we just thank you we wanted to have the kids come and see the process and see how adults can work things out. And so we just want to thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Hi, I'm Kelly Murphy. I have 2 kids in 5th grade, so this is all really, really relevant. I want to thank you again for the leadership of the district for looking after all of our RVSD district kids, whether they're in our 5 district schools or there are district kids who've chosen to go to the charter. That's about 2,000 kids a year you need to consider for the near term, but also for the long term. And I really appreciate taking their needs every step of the way into consideration, especially given that all of those kids will spend 3 years at White Hill, no matter where they start out, and hopefully. And that includes the ones learning language in the hallways, and the 120 or so kids who have left our district to go to the charter. Just a reminder that at the RVSD schools, our class sizes are up to about the maximums. So for the K-3 kids, that's about 24 kids per class, all the way to almost kindergarten, starting with that max. And about 30 kids in 4th and 5th grade. So our classrooms are really full, and their teachers are doing a fantastic job, but they are really full. Even with one class for the specials, 121 or so kids into 7 classrooms is 17 or 18 kids per classroom. If you took one of those and dedicated it to special ed, it's still only 20 kids per classroom. So in terms of the load, it doesn't feel as high for looking at those district kids. Also at past board meetings, the RVC leadership has talked about their strong differentiator of their inclusion model, where they prefer to leave the special ed kids in the general classroom and serve those needs in an integrated classroom. And that's been something that's been seen as one of the things that sets them apart from RVSD schools. My kids have served some special needs services in the classroom at RVSD schools as well. But that's not neither here nor there. The need to pull out into a separate classroom seems like a slightly different strategy than the ones that they were really pushing last year. At any rate, I wanted to thank the board again for your thoughtfulness and for making sure that all of our kids are getting everything that they need wherever they're studying this year, and I hope that we have a great school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have number 19?
Not really great at just off the cuff speaking, so I wrote it. I'm sorry if it's just reading. My name's Jen Wolf. I'm an administrative assistant that works at Ross Valley Charter. I know that since last year we've contested in writing about the amount of administrative space being calculated as a reasonably sufficient space for RVC's administrative and special education and specialized teaching purposes. I am very familiar with all these rooms and how they're used. I just thought I might let you guys know and hear a little bit about how that is used and perhaps answer this fellow's question over here. There's a special education room. I measured all these rooms today. That is 12.5 by 9 feet. There is a special education room where the special education director and some support members use it, and it is 11 feet by 8.5 feet. There is a conference room, which is not considered the special education allocation, but it is an administrative space. That's the largest one. And we use it for aftercare and before care and any other special staff meetings. That's the largest one, which is about 19 feet by 12 feet. There's a office off the larger front office that the school director uses, much as any other school director or superintendent or principal would use. Needs to have a closed door so he can have business calls, meetings, private conversations, and be able to talk to school staff. And that one is 9 feet, 2 inches by 8 feet, 4 inches. That apparently was a previous nurse's office. Perhaps it could be used for special education services. I don't know. But it would put him in a awkward position of not having any private space to do his work running the school. And I don't think it would be reasonably equivalent to put him out in the hallway. So I looked into all that, and I decided to look in detail at the facility use agreement. It says it considers a portion of the front office administrative spaces being able to, quote, use some portion of this space using for pull-out instruction, unquote. This front room is just one big open space used as a front office. It has no private areas and contains 2 desks, file cabinets, copy machines, ringing phones, staff and parents visiting, kids coming through sometimes for a Band-Aid, ice pack, 2 access doors that must remain unlocked for egress, and this cannot in any sensible way be used for a quiet, private, special education pull-out room and would not meet legal criteria as such. I thought you might want to know that. If this is part of the calculated 342 square feet of pull-out space that's being considered in the current facilities use agreement, then it is not correct in the letter or spirit of special education needs. Thank you.
Thank you. One more? Yes.
Rob Sineski, 2 awesome daughters, 1 now at White Hill, 1 at Hampton. I think everybody in this room realizes that this is a somewhat less than ideal situation that we find ourselves in. We've been mandated by a court case and by Prop 39 that the district must supply space to the charter. I don't think anybody in this room really feels like sending kids across town in the middle of the day is useful or helpful to the kids in particular. I also want to just restate some of what's been said here, that this has an impact on all of our children, not just kids at the charter, but also those of us who have kids at White Hill, and certainly the charter kids will, many of them will end up there as well. So there's a lot of considerations there, considering that the White Hill population has already given so much to this charter to exist on campus, and it sounds like from all stretches it's going quite well. So I too would encourage some of the ideas that came up here in terms of creative thinking around this. Perhaps there's a repurposed portable that could be installed in a way that it doesn't impact either side too difficult, too much. Maybe it's included in the blacktop space or the additional blacktop space to let spaces taken care of. I'd also encourage the RVC staff and membership to consider being creative with their program. Are there ways that they can modify how the program works to include the kids in their existing classroom? Maybe there's some services that could go to an additional space that's off-site that, whether it's, I don't know the program, so it's hard for me to say. But I think the solution, because we are all in kind of a really difficult spot, requires some creative thinking on both sides of the equation here. And I guess lastly, I just want to emphasize that when we consider the children, we need to consider all of the children, and not to say anything less for those with special needs. In fact, I think they maybe deserve a little more love than the rest of us, but I just want to make sure that we're really balancing that equation before we make the final decision.
Thank you. Thank you all so much, and thank you everyone for really being super civil and kind and direct in your expression of your advocacy and perspective. I would actually like to ask that we take a 4.5-minute break so people can have a little walk around, have a little drink of water, use the restroom if you need to, and so we'll take a brief 5-minute recess.
And that Ross decide now to give a space, then to sit down or have people on our behalf sit down with them and discuss. Don't actually come together.
Right, and you end up with what you end up with, and you can use it how you see.
The idea for White Hill originally, and I remember those were all difficult discussions, and I was, there was no good options. I always felt that White Hill was a good option because it shared the burden across the community at large, and it did not put burdens at individual communities and the K-5 schools. And I'm not certainly threatened by the notion that Hidden Valley is being proposed to have a special day class there, but the point of it is, if we're going to have RVC continue to grow into our community, we're going to have to come to some approach to figure out how we're going to be able to serve those students at one site. I think that the RVC litigation strategy, which pivoted at the point that the judge's tentative ruling sort of leaves us to the place that we're in, as well as the fact that one set of people in the room say, well, our kids need this space. I don't disagree with that, but I also know that White Hill is full, and we've put an amazing burden on our teaching staff and our students there. And unless somebody can demonstrate to me that there's space that's very easy to turn around, I don't see how that's fair either under these circumstances for this school year.
I think the table was set. The table was set before we got this court's ruling. You know, if the timing of things had been a little bit different, maybe things could have been configured differently. There was a speaker who talked about how much space there could be if things got configured differently. Well, as I said, the table is set. We can't reconfigure White Hill at this point.
But nobody will necessitate the transportation of children off-site. That a larger number of students were projected to be served last year in that same amount of space.
Well, I understand that
And
completely.
nobody demanded that anybody be moved away. So I think it's just really important in terms of calming the attribution of malice to say nobody is demanding that you rip these children from their peers and bus them on the short bus up to Hidden Valley. That wasn't, to my hearing, the intent of the judge. It certainly isn't my hope that children be harmed, and it certainly isn't necessary given the amount of facility if you want to configure it in a different way. 8 classrooms is certainly a legally compliant number of rooms to deal with.
But I think that's where I am. I completely agree, and that's why I was asking those foundational questions. That I would look to the people in this room who are suggesting creative alternatives to find that creative space within the spaces that Ms. Wolf carefully talked about and that were in the letter to us about getting that space in the library. It seems to me that I very much don't want to have kids transported back and forth. That doesn't make any sense to me. And it doesn't sound to me also that that was what the judge was contemplating either. Because it was presented as an option and argued, my understanding, that it would be a place that was not at the same campus. That was in front of the judge, correct? That it might be. And then the rebuttal that came back from RVC talked about the fact that that was not going to be an acceptable solution.
That is very true, that the proposed, rate?
But that was amended. So our thinking turned to special.
I just don't understand